How's it going, everybody? A new season also means new undocumented changes. The list this time is a bit longer than usual and also has a few bigger changes than we normally see. As usual, a little disclaimer: not all of these changes might have been introduced with the latest patch. Chances are that we only now discovered them, but they've been like this for a while. Feel free to correct me here if I mention anything that's been a thing for quite some time already, and also feel free to add any additional ones that I might have missed. We're starting with a big one. Punch Through has received a considerable buff. Just to recap, normal chip damage is 18% of the base value from an attack. The numbers displayed are always rounded up, but the game registers decimal values. Punch Through is supposed to double that number, but with the changes this season, these numbers are significantly higher. You're seeing George here, the lights are 16 and 18 damage respectively, yet do 9 and 10 chip damage. That is around 56%. Like I said, decimal values don't get shown, only rounded numbers, so it's hard to say what the exact percentage is. But that's a good rule of thumb. This change affects all characters that can pick the feat, there is no exception. The three that benefit from it the most are Warlord, George and Black Prior. Warlord and Yom are the two obvious ones, as both of them have enhanced lights. That means they can continue their chain after those attacks have been blocked, but that then also means that they do chip damage and thus are affected by the Punch Through feat. Black Prior might not be immediately obvious, and I was skeptical as well until Kawaii explained it. Because of how Black Prior's bash offense works and the possible mix-up with the undodgeable heavy, it basically doesn't matter whether a bash lands or the opponent blocks a heavy. You get 18 damage from a blocked heavy. That's even a bit more than the 17 from a landed bash. So even with strong feats like Oathbreaker as a tier 3 choice, Punch Through is another viable pick for BP now. It's worth giving it a try. Even if you watch competitive scrims, you will see them pick it there, and I guess I can use that opportunity to shout out Verbalosity. Spectator mode is available for everyone to use now, and he's been streaming and commentating competitive scrims ever since then. I will link to his stream in the video description, so if you're interested, give it a look. But continuing with Punch Through, there are a few things that need explaining. For one, Punch Through is not affected by damage buffs. The feat itself apparently counts as a damage buff already, and as we all know now, damage buffs do not stack. None of them. Neither your revenge nor any other feats that increase your damage will up your chip damage any further. Debuffs work though, as they're affecting the opponent and not yourself, so please keep that in mind. The other thing is revenge gain. There is no additional revenge feeding with Punch Through. The attack counts as a block, and how much it feeds is still dependent on the base damage value. Chip damage is not relevant in that scenario. So even if that's the case, you shouldn't mindlessly throw attacks into someone's guard. This is not an invitation to do that. Yeah, you might be doing a bit more damage, but you're still a detriment in the fight if you don't properly gank, or look to punish things like recoveries or punish attempts in a teamfight. But yeah, Punch Through is a good feat now. Feel free to take it and not feel like you wasted a tier 3 slot. Moving on, the health bar bug. I've made a separate video explaining it in detail, but I can understand if you missed this, and for the sake of completion I'm going to still mention it here. There's currently an issue with the health bar. It breaks as soon as it reaches a value somewhere between 141 and 144. It is strictly a visual bug, but as I mentioned many times in the past, the UI should not be deceiving. A link to the video should have popped up already, so check it out if you want to know the details. Next change is about projectile feeds, the aiming portion to be exact. If you auto-aim, the reticule will go towards the opponent's knees instead of the center of the model, and if you aim manually, your projectile will fly off in an upward angle. I don't know, like 30 degrees or something, not really all that important. It's not such a big deal, as auto-aim has always been atrocious the second the Z-axis is involved, and as long as you use it on flat terrain, it should still hit. The problem appears if you want to do long range snipes, because you no longer can use the center of your crosshair. You need to use the upper end of the top line of your reticule. that is where your projectile will fly to. I don't know whether it's a good thing that both auto aim as well as manual aim broke at the same time, so we know it's connected somehow, or whether it's a bad thing. All in all, gameplay wise it doesn't change all that much, but it's still a little confusing to see projectiles fly off in a weird trajectory. Next changes in regards to Gladiator. This has probably been a thing since the rework, but was only recently discovered. His dodge attacks are unsafe on block against attacks that are 466 milliseconds or faster. Not unsafe to the extent that you get a guard break, just attacks. This isn't such a big deal as the dodge attack will get parried for much more damage in most scenarios anyways. This is more a thing in team fights where you block a target switched attack, so keep that in mind. This is a possible punish even without a teammate around. Moving on to something that's extremely hard to prove and showcase, the range of specific moves, in our case now guard breaks. The only real consistent way to measure distance is to use moves that create distance and then use that as a baseline. For example, we know that if you guard break someone, that person counters, and you buffer a guard break, that you will reach. The only exception is Shugoki, the only character that could GB long range parries back in the day without having a dodge guard break now has the shortest range. That's nothing new, just a little tangent. Back to the topic, so if you buffer the guard break it will reach. If you let the back movement play out completely, then your guard break will whiff. This is the same situation when you counter guard break and then attempt a guard break, that will also always whiff. So that was a lot of explaining right now, but all of that is still the exact same. Which means that if anything at all, if the range changed, it must be somewhere between these two distances that we can reliably recreate. This means we need to test with markings on the floor, and as it's pretty much impossible to place two characters at the exact same spot twice, all these tests aren't 100% accurate. Overall, our conclusion is that guard breaks are inconsistent. Well, they have always been, but now it feels like they're inconsistent more often. During these tests I took a break and made dinner, but Nutella and Mudbone kept testing during all that time. And a few more things seem to be factors here. Your last movement direction, as well as which movement you input during the guard break, seem to affect tracking. Ever so slightly obviously, but nonetheless. But the dumbest shit that happened was this. Can't see it? Look here. Somehow, I don't know and they don't know either, Mudbone got a bit of revenge. Mind you, this is Brawls and there is no second opponent for him. There was no way to get a second tag on him, yet somehow he got a bit of revenge from guard break spamming. But never mind the revenge thing here, I can't definitively prove that guard break range is different now. It might be just as the complaints we have every patch that parrying is different. If anyone knows and can reproduce a method, then please let me know, I'll gladly take a look. Next issue is in regards to Highlander, so let me just say straight from the beginning, I do not play the character, so a lot of the intricacies and specific timings are lost on me. The patch notes did mention a fix of the infinite kick, so this is not necessarily an undocumented change, but probably just a side effect of the aforementioned fix. What I can say for sure is that you now randomly get moved out of offensive stance when throwing lights. People say it's buffered lights during a guard switch, but that can't be the only reason or it would be easy to reproduce. The next change, at least I think as I don't have reliable pre-patch footage, is to him exiting his offensive stance and when the guard comes back. That is basically a nerf to how Highlander option select parries. It takes 200 milliseconds from feint until the guard comes back up. This should make it hard for him to parry on light timing and then block heavies, but like I said, I'm not 100% sure if there actually was a change. I know Mully has made a video specifically about the Highlander changes, so watch him, he can probably give you a much better explanation, or talk to Spy, maybe he can also edit together a video explaining it. It's not too far-fetched that if Rep 70 Highlander mains say that they feel something is different now, that something actually was changed. So sorry for not being able to give more details here, but the fix of the infinite kick seems to have had some implications on the rest of the kit. Moving on to Raider, for whatever reason his combo zone is now unsafe. Yes, if you hit your attack, the opponent can guard break you. This only goes for the comboed one, not the neutral like we had when his rework first hit. Why this could happen, I don't know honestly. One of the theories is that because the damage got changed and hit stun value is maybe linked to the amount of damage an attack does, so it got automatically adjusted to a medium hit reaction, which ultimately made it unsafe. So yeah, if a Raider is stupid enough to use it against you with a ledge nearby, you know what to do. That covers all the big issues. Now for a few smaller ones. Punching on ladders and sliding down on them no longer has the unblockable symbol. They still work exactly the same, but there is no longer a visual indicator for them. You can still hear the old sound though. Now ever since this patch, minion corpses seem to be even more annoying. They create invisible walls that stop you from moving. This can be extremely disruptive to fighting in the minion lane as it blocks you in for no apparent reason. As usual, this is not consistent and multiple factors, probably attack type, character you play, terrain and many other things come into play here. If you know a way to reproduce this, please let me know. Another change was in regards to stuns. Shaolin's stun on his running kick has been removed. That was actually a change like 2 seasons ago that I kept forgetting to include in these videos, so feel informed about this now, and sorry. But Kensei got his stun on his throws back. It was never the most important part of his kit, but it did have its uses. If you missed the wall splat and you were already mid unblockable, you can soft feign it into a light and still have the stun somewhat obscure the attack's direction. I'm glad it's back, especially since the throw animation hints at it. Another small change was to George's tier 4 feed. The voice line when they yell Ragnarok, that is gone. And that's it. Like I said, many changes this time around and big ones at that. Not all of them are necessarily bad. Feel free to discuss which ones you think we should maybe keep. Some are obvious bugs, so don't tell me you want the invisible minion corpses. But yeah, I hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.